Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using some fun new products from scrapbook.com. I have their new Love Bird stamp set. Has 2 birds, some butterflies, flowers. There's a new sentiment stamp set with some images called A Little Birdie, and there are coordinating dies. There's also a fun Rub-On set called A Little Birdie. It's filled with bird images, flowers, there's some branches, and tons of sentiments. Some of the sentiments are in black, others are in different colors that coordinate beautifully with the bird and flower images. I'll also be using a brand new paper pad called Delight. This is an A2 size, and I love the colors and designs in this paper collection. There's a coordinating solid called Gelato. I'm showing you the A2 size, but the Gelato is also available in 6x8. And if you're interested in any of the products I use in this video, I will have them linked in the description box below. I'll also be using some shape dies from scrapbook.com. I have the nested hexagons, nested stitched A2 rectangles, nested stitch circles, and also nested Rickrack arches. This set is currently not available, but it is coming very soon. I'll be making 3 different card designs using the new products. For card design number 1, I selected this light pink, and this is a solid from the Delight paper pad. I cut it out using a stitched rectangle die, and this piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. I decided to add a little bit of splatter on the background using scrapbook.com's white Lustre brush marker. I'll squeeze out a little bit of ink on an acrylic block, then I'll gently tap the brush over the card. And if you haven't used the white Lustre brush marker before, it's kind of magical. When you first splatter it, you can barely see that white color, but let it sit for a few minutes and that white will brighten. Now I know it's a little bit harder to see on this light pink, but it does have a beautiful white splatter, and it even adds a little bit of texture to the background. I will be using a card sketch for inspiration. The sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. It's number 728. I saw this sketch and thought it would be perfect to feature 4 pattern papers from the Delight paper pad, and I cut out the papers using the nested stitched circle dies, 2 different sizes. The card sketch also has some little foliage branch pieces. I used scrapbook.com's greenhouse die set, and I cut them out using some of the silver holographic paper from scrapbook.com's holographic mirror paper pad. Since the foliage pieces will be tucked underneath the circle, I did tear off the very bottom. There's no need to add any extra layers, and that portion won't be visible. Now on the card sketch, it only has 2 little branches, one at the top, one at the bottom. I'm adding 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom. 3 of the circles feature a tone-on-tone pattern, and then I have 1 circle with a busier pattern, the teal with the beautiful pink and white flowers, and I'll have that one in front, so it'll be more of the focal point next to the sentiment. To adhere the foliage and circle pieces down, I'm using Barely Art glue. I added the orange one down first. Next, this pink grid line, and then the teal flower grid at the bottom, and then finally the floral circle. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out. Oh, hello. The ink color I used is Catherine Pooler's Bay Breeze color. I will pop up the sentiment using foam dimension. I grabbed the small foam squares from scrapbook.com in the 1mm thickness. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment at the bottom of the floral circle. Now for some reason, I assembled this card a little bit out of order. I generally put my card front onto the card base first and then add the rest of the elements, but this time I'm doing it in reverse. For the background of my card, I selected this dark pink solid from the Gelato Smooth cardstock paper pad, and this piece is A2 size, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. To adhere the card front down, I put glue on the back and I'll layer it on that dark pink. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This is a super simple card and perfect design if you need to use up some pattern paper scraps. For card design number 2, the card sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 769. And if you're interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, including measurements, I share all that information on my coordinating blog post. The link is in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For this card, I'm using the light teal tone-on-tone floral paper for the background. This piece is 4 inches by 5¼ inches. For the narrow strip on the left side of the card, using more of the orange tone-on-tone paper. And I'm layering it on some of the orange solid, and this is from the Gelato paper pad. The orange cardstock layer is an additional 1/8 inch, so 1 5/8 inch by 4 7/8 inch. The adhesive I'm using is Scrapbook.com's Deluxe Adhesive Roller. It's super sticky. I'll layer the pattern paper background on some of the solid pattern paper, a light teal color, and that piece is A2 size. Using one of the hexagon dies, I cut out this beautiful orange background with teal flowers. Now I could use the next size up for the matted layer, but I wanted a thin border. So instead I'll adhere the hexagon on some of the orange cardstock. Then with a pair of scissors, I'll trim around the 6 different sides, leaving just that very narrow border. Since the sides are all straight, this is pretty easy to do with a pair of scissors. And it does help to have a larger size pair of scissors instead of a smaller, maybe fussy cut style scissors. That way you can easily do just that single cut. Now before I adhere the hexagon down, the right side of it goes off the edge of that orange strip on the left side, and I want to keep it at the same level. So I'll add a scrap piece of cardstock in that area. And I use the same size hexagon die with some scrap white cardstock. I'll put glue on the back and adhere the hexagon on the left side of the card. Now I'll set that aside, and this card will feature 2 of the butterflies and 1 of the birds from the Love Birds die set. For both of the bird images, the die set includes this shadow piece, which makes it super easy to assemble the bird image. Many times I would cut out that piece from white cardstock, but I decided to use vellum. I'll start off by attaching the bird's legs and feet. The very top of that leg area will be covered up by the bird's body. For the bird's body, the only area you'll see is the head. I used the light teal cardstock for that. Using more of the orange cardstock for the tail. This is the darker orange color. I used the lighter orange for the legs and feet. For the bird's body, I'm using a darker teal solid. And for the bird's wing, this is a soft peach color. Since I used both the Delight pattern paper and the Gelato cardstock paper pads, I had lots of different color options that coordinate together. The bird's beak, I used the same dark orange cardstock. This is a fairly small piece. I'll add the glue, then pick up that piece using the wax tip end of the Craft Pro Pick tool. And before the glue dries completely, I'll make sure it's on nice and straight. And then finally, the bird's eye, and I use a black cardstock for that. There's also a die if you want to add a little blush cheek. I decided to leave it off for this bird. The butterflies, super easy to assemble. There's the one main background piece with the wings. There's a separate piece for the top layer of the wings, One of them adds this intricate detail, and you could cut out other colors to give more variety to the butterfly. I decided to go with just the 2 colors for the wings. For the butterfly body, I used some white cardstock. So for each of the butterflies, it's just 3 pieces. Super easy to assemble. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut out hello. And I used the same Bay Breeze ink color by Catherine Pooler. This is the one I use for card 1. So now it's time to add the sentiment and the 3 images, and I will be popping all of them up using foam dimension. Behind the sentiment, the 2 butterflies, and part of the bird, I'm using the 1mm small foam squares. I'll start off by adding the sentiment. I'll remove the release paper and add the sentiment at the bottom of the hexagon. The bird will go on the right side of the sentiment. Behind the area of the bird that sits on the hexagon, I'm using the 1mm foam. Behind the rest of the bird, the area that goes off of the hexagon, I'm using the 2mm small foam squares. And these are both from scrapbook.com. I did cut some of the foam squares in half to fit behind the narrow area of the bird's tail feathers. I'm placing the bird on the card, then running my fingers over it. I just want to make sure all the areas have foam where needed. Although I'm not adding any foam behind the feet since those are super tiny areas and I don't want any of the foam to be visible through the vellum. Now I'll add some 1mm foam squares behind the butterflies. And for one of them, I am cutting the foam square in half. I'll remove the release paper and add the butterflies in the upper left-hand corner. So on the card sketch, it has those 2 small hearts. I'm adding butterflies, and instead of the large heart, I use the bird image. For embellishments, I'm using some enamel dots from Alta New. This is the Glacier Caves color, using the lightest shade. I'll add 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 around the bird on the right side. For a final finishing touch, using a white gel pen and adding the little highlight inside the bird's eye. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The bird and butterfly images on the new Lovebird set are perfect for spring and summer cards. Now moving on to card design number 3. For the background of my card, I selected the light teal with pink and white flowers. This is the same pattern paper I featured on card 1 in the larger circle. I cut this piece to 4 inches by 5¼ inches, and I'm layering it on some of the darker teal solid cardstock. And that piece is an additional 1/8 of an inch. So 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. I'll put adhesive on the back, add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I'll be adding a bright pink Rickrack arch, and this is from the nested Rickrack arches set that I showed earlier. It's not available yet, but it's coming soon. I'll put glue on the back, add the arch down on the center of the card. I'm holding the arch frame with a pair of reverse tweezers, making sure I have good coverage of glue on the back. Then I'll add the arch on the center of the background. And using the same die, I also cut it out from some white cardstock, but I'm only using the inside area with the white cardstock, not the Rickrack frame. I'll put glue on the back, add the white piece on the inside of the pink frame. For this card, I'll be using the new A Little Birdie Rub-On set, both the sentiments and images. I've already cut out all the pieces I'll be adding on the card. I'll start with the arch sentiment in orange, A Little Birdie Told Me. I'll use the popsicle stick that comes with the rub-on pack to transfer all the sentiments and images. When using rub-ons, you want to make sure to apply enough pressure over the entire image or sentiment, but don't press too hard. Then I'll start at one end, lift up that plastic backer, and very slowly I'll start to peel it back. If there are any areas where the letters didn't transfer completely, I'll lay it back down, apply a little more pressure, and then lift it up again. And I'll do the same thing with all the images. So next I'm adding this branch with some lovely pink flowers, and I am putting it at an angle. Wanted to make sure it would fit inside the arch. Once that's transferred completely, I'll add one of the birds, and I'm placing the bird so its feet are sitting on the branch. You can overlap rub-ons. Make sure to apply enough pressure and slowly remove this plastic piece, making sure the entire image transferred. Need to add a little more pressure around the feet. So there's a sweet little bird sitting on a branch. I'm also adding the sentiment in black, "You're so tweet." So the full sentiment, "A little birdie told me, you're so tweet." I thought that was super cute. I'll add it underneath the bird and branch in the center. Above the arch sentiment, I'm adding a pink flower and also two little foliage pieces with pink flowers on the end. On the rub-on set, there are 4 corner pieces with a bunch of flowers and foliage. I trimmed out a couple of the flower pieces from those corner images. I put the single pink flower above the sentiment in the center. Then I'll add those 2 pink foliage pieces on the right and left side. And since they were part of those corner images, they already curve down, going along with that arch line of the sentiment. The final 2 rub-on images are 2 small pink hearts, and I'm putting one on the right side of the sentiment and the other on the left side. And I'm trying to add them so they're at about the same level. Since most of the images are small, they were super easy to transfer using the popsicle stick. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The other card, I used the same pattern paper and Rickrack arch, but I selected different rub-on images and sentiments. Now here's another look at the 6 cards I made using some new products from scrapbook.com, including their A Little Birdie and Love Bird stamps, dies, and rub-ons. I love the new products, beautiful papers, adorable images, and they're perfect for spring or summer cards. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.